So what does it take for somebody to be, I'm going to trick Justin up and step over here. What does it take for a company to be considered for participation in the program? Well, first of all, in life sciences, intellectual property is everything. Sometimes with these very early stage companies that don't have a paid employee or anything, intellectual property is the only thing available. This is what the university is licensing. This is what it has to trade and barter for investment for some time to come. So very few of these opportunities get by beyond if there's not a considerable and growable patent portfolio, maybe trade secrets. In life sciences, there's less that happens that's dependent upon copyright and so forth. But trade secrets and know-how and patents certainly are the currency of note here. Remember that I said the Tech Transfer Office was the primary customer for this. Therefore, we're working with technologies that have not yet been licensed either to this prospective startup or to anyone else. They're still in the property of they are the property of the university, and we're working with the university to help corroborate the commercial opportunity. You know, is a startup the right vehicle to commercialize this, and then start piecing the story together. So at the time of inclusion, that IP is not yet licensed, but the university, as any other stakeholder, has some contribution to this. And their contribution is they earmark the technology, usually through option to license, to this startup so that we know the university isn't shopping it around somewhere else while we think they're on board trying to make a go of the startup. And actually that's been a great relationship, and when opportunities that they really believe have value, meaning not the B and C grade technologies, but really A grade technologies, they're certainly willing to do that and invest something. And you've got a question.
Yeah. I have a question as far as technology transfer.
Mm-hmm.
That includes student projects as well as research from professors, doesn't it?
Different universities have, the question was, does Tech Transfer manage the rights of science and technology that comes from students as well as from faculty? Did I capture the question okay? Right. You know, I don't think that there's a universal way that all universities handle students, you know, undergrad, graduate, even through postdoc. When I was postdocing at Duke, it was very unclear at the time, I'm sure they've sorted this out now, it was very unclear whether an invention made by a postdoc that may not have gotten their primary funding from a federal grant and certainly weren't faculty, whether Duke had rights to that. And you know, back in the day, that was cause for a lot of, not my angst, but others. I saw this play out. But I don't think there's a universal way of managing that. I think each university in their contracts has a different arrangement for different types of scientists. Did that answer the question? Okay. Again, we're trying to determine, and it's certainly maybe 1 out of 10 of these truly commercializable technologies should ever be put into a startup. Most of the time, it makes more sense to license these things to an existing company already in an industry sector. Certainly, it's a lot less work for the university to do that kind of license than go through all the gyrations of negotiating a license with a company that had necessarily been formed, or is it formed in name only. Huge risk, of course, associated with that. And also, until recently, it wasn't necessarily understood by universities that they could have an ownership stake in a startup company. And most of them now have, you know, view that they can, and they have, and there are quite a few of them in this locale. You know, whoops, back up, there we go. You know, when these things come to me, the company may actually have already been created. In fact, the company may already have a CEO on board that folks have gone out and brought in. You know, great, my job just got easier, that's fine. We can work with that. What we do stipulate is that company is going to be headquartered and it's going to have its major base of operations in North Carolina, or at least it looks like that's likely to be the case. You can't really hold anybody's hands to that, or whatever metaphor I'm mangling there. But we're doing job creation for North Carolina, not for somewhere else. So we want to feel comfortable that at least the early job growth is going to happen here. Again, your taxpayer dollars at work, right? I mentioned the role of our library and help kind of corroborate, kind of vet the commercial opportunities and some of the other nuances about it as far as that crystal ball extends anyway for very early companies. And I mentioned part of my job is expectation management on the part of the inventors. And part of that is around transferring the mindset. Again, keep in mind that these opportunities come based on the technology and are driven by the technology. Changing that mindset from one of technology pushing the opportunity, so, oh wow, this is so cool, this is so neat, it blinks and everything, we're going to form a company and people are just going to throw money at it. I don't know about you all, that doesn't happen in our world. Until it's then mapped to some unmet market need. And we've got a market pull for that. And this is the stage in the life cycle where if that mindset hasn't already been adopted, that it's not the coolness of the technology driving this, it's what product, what service that actually impacts anybody's life comes out of this. It's an obvious statement, but again, when someone's talking about their child, they don't necessarily see the flaws, right? Yeah, quick.
Do you have some things start from that direction of people with market needs that are coming to you looking for technology?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got, excuse me, not everything that we see comes from a pure academic, totally commercially clueless sort of individual, or one that is totally disconnected from reality. And I probably just stepped on a lot of toes with that. I've got my pocket protector right here, okay, so I'm chastising my own kind here. A lot of these folks have developed technologies with support from disease foundations, in collaboration with engineers engineers think very much in an applications-oriented sense. I'm making generalizations, of course, but as we see more and more biomedical engineering applications brought to the life sciences, and we do see those particularly in the combination devices world, then we see almost built-in early vision for application. And actually more and more, I think we find that the more senior researchers, and actually a lot of their postdocs, wind up doing the legwork for understanding how this compares, how does our patents compare to someone else's, and are we infringing here, and look at the market and so forth. So it's not that we're starting from ground zero in trying to train the thinking of these folks, far from it, but sometimes you still get the wiry-haired professor type, right? Did that answer the question?
Was there really a lot of demand pull that was becoming as requirements to get back into